Welcome to the Get Back, music work talk in Central Texas, Fridays at 1 p.m. Brought to you by the Austin Federation of Musicians and with the Unemployment Compensation Advisory Committee. The Unemployment Compensation Advisory Committee are members of the Austin Federation of Musicians, Local 433 of the American Federation of Musicians, aka the Musicians Union. Some of us work as contractor 1099 workers, and others work as employee W-2 workers in various aspects of the music industry.
The goal of this session is to share our experiences, including trials and tribulations related to the Texas Workforce Commission, or TWC, with other musicians in the state of Texas to aid in navigating the TWC application process. We are not experts in unemployment assistance. We are musicians.
The information contained herein does not constitute either legal advice or an official pronouncement or a position of the Austin Federation of Musicians, but rather is only the personal opinions of the panelists. The panelists do not give legal advice or make official rulings on agency matters, should not be cited as authorities in any matter before the agency or when dealing with agency staff about a case, and must minimize their involvement with administrative processes. They also do not give legal advice on any other matter, and any information they should give should not be used as a basis for taking any employment-related action. Before taking any employment action that could adversely affect an employee, or before using any sample form or policy you may obtain from this group, you should consult a licensed private sector employment law attorney of your choice. All right, welcome to the Get Back. It's April 29th, 2022. I'm Aaron, and Kaz and Russell are joining us. Hello, gentlemen. Man, I guess we usually start with talking about the links down in the show description. There's the usual links about how to get a hold of the union, how to join the union, and some other links about economic recovery for musicians from the pandemic. If you're watching this live, that'll be there, but if you're watching this, the archived version will also have the links for the articles that we talk about today. But if you're watching live, those won't be there yet, but they'll get there. Don't worry. And we usually also move on to beverages, and I'm doing coffee as usual in a giant thermos. What are you guys drinking?
Spring water, the giant.
I'm back to water.
Oh man, no green tea.
Nah.
You got to rehydrate after your tour, huh?
Yeah, cutting back.
There you go. Excellent, man. Yeah. Okay, man. Well, I think the biggest thing we wanted to talk about this week is the election locally here. It's a state election, but there are local things depending on where you live. What do you think? Do you guys want to talk about should we start with the local things or the statewide things?
I think the local things have more impact right now.
Yeah. There's really only one local thing on there. Do you guys want to introduce what that is? It's got kind of two parts to it.
Yeah, it's a City of Austin proposition decriminalizing marijuana possession. And the second part of that is prohibiting the use of no-knock warrants. Yeah,
so it does a couple of different things, you know. There's some limitations to the marijuana thing, though. It's like they're still going to enforce it if it's involved with violent crime or something like that. But otherwise, they're not going to do that. They're not going to test things to see if they are marijuana. So it might just be oregano, right?
You can't. You still can't have a big kilo in the back seat. You know, they won't let that slide.
Oh, that's the other thing. Yeah, if it's involved with large amounts for trafficking, right? Yep, that's the other caveat. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this is, from what I've read, it's kind of just putting what's already the case into writing.
Yeah.
Right. Codifying what's already, what the main. The police and et cetera, the main groups that are involved in this, they're already doing this, right?
Yeah, I think that went into place several years ago, but this actually puts it into the law, right?
Right. So it's a good idea to vote for it, just to kind of put the rubber stamp on what's already been going on.
Right. And this is only for the
Well, there's
city
a
of
reason
Austin.
why we're doing it, because we had a police chief that said that he wasn't going to have law enforcement enforce this. They were going to continue to ticket and arrest people. So
Ah,
this is a means of stopping
Yeah.
that.
interesting. Yeah. And of course, the no-knock warrants thing has been an issue all over the country that we've been hearing about.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, that's what killed Breonna Taylor, right?
But again, there's extremely few no-knock warrant things going on in Austin or in Central Texas in general. So it's kind of a little bit of a moot point, but it's still worth getting it on the books, I think. So it's worth turning out to vote for that, just to get it on the books. So
Yeah. And yeah, if it seems like you haven't heard a lot
Austin has a
about it.
bigger
Oh, go ahead, Russell.
or I said Austin has a bigger problem with wellness checks as opposed to no-knock warrants.
How do you mean?
More people have been injured from wellness checks from law enforcement than they have from no-knock warrants.
Wow. And what is a wellness check? Can you talk about that?
When an officer will come to your house, somebody will call and say, "Well, we haven't seen Russell in a week or 2 weeks, rather," and the officer will come by and want to see if you're alive or whatever, and it goes horribly wrong.
Right.
But I
When you
thought,
come to the door-
don't they usually call first before they come?
No, sir, they don't.
Oh, okay. I thought they did.
Well, and
No, sir, they show up.
sometimes
They
that's the
can't
issue.
force their way in, but if you open the door, they can walk in.
Right.
Well, and sometimes that's the issue, is that the person can't be reached by phone to begin with.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So
And it's not against the law to disappear.
it's not a crime. That's right.
Right.
And it's also not against the law to call somebody in who's your enemy or somebody you got a grudge against. You call them in.
Right.
Wow, that's true. Yeah. Yep. Oh man. Yeah. Well, so there hasn't been a lot of discussion about this because there's very little opposition to either of these things because they're
Sure.
basically already part of the procedure. So
Well, Mark is right. I mean, no-knock warrants are not a huge problem here in Austin.
but it's still good to get it on the books. Yeah.
That's good to get. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other local thing that I'd heard about was the one in Leander, where the city government up there is considering divesting itself of the Capital Metro Rail, even though they're the terminus of it up there. I don't know. I mean, I think there's the complaints I heard about it had to do with sort of the lack of revenue that it's bringing into the city, but the city hasn't built the things around the metro station that they said they were going to build.
Right.
So it's kind of out there by itself still. And I have ridden the metro rail from that station, and it's kind of hard to find up there,
Yeah.
But still, like, that's no reason to divest themselves from the project. I mean, we need we need better public transportation, not less public transportation. So I don't know. You guys heard anything about that? Either you guys
Just
live in Leander? No.
Just what you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't go to again. So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it seems like most of the people who are going to vote against it are going to be people who live in Leander and don't use Cap Metro,
Right. Right.
right? Because they're having to pay more and more and more for it. But it passed originally, so you can't abandon it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. One, I mean, with inflation and gas prices, like, that's an option people might want to start thinking about, using that public transport option if they can. Not everybody can, because not everybody's, destination is close enough to the metro lines.
Right. Yeah.
So, but at some point, we're going to have a metro line that goes to the airport, and that's going to change everything, I think. But, yeah, I don't know. That's just me. I don't get to vote on it because I don't live in Leander, and I've got some family up there. But yeah, so have you guys heard about any of the other local things around here? I think there's one, City of Lakeway, City of Hutto, City of Bee Caves has one. Either you guys in those municipalities?
I didn't hear anything about those.
All right. Well, let's talk about the state stuff. What's going on with the state? I'm looking at the League of Women Voters voting guide, and also the Chronicle endorsements. Those are always interesting to sort of pit against each other. Sometimes the Chronicle and the Statesman, or the Texas Tribune.
Get out.
Yeah, see how they're different. But there's two state proposals. What are you guys hearing about them? Let's see. Oh, that wasn't the one I was looking for. Well, Proposition 1. So I can read the language here. Constitutional amendment authorizing the legislature to provide for the reduction of the amount of a limitation on the total amount of ad valorem taxes that may be imposed for general, elementary, and secondary public school purposes on the resident homestead of a person who is elderly or disabled to reflect any statutory reduction from the preceding tax year in the maximum compressed rate of maintenance and operations taxes imposed for those purposes on a homestead. Basically, it sort of corrects a mistake that the legislature made that made taxes go up for elderly and disabled homeowners, and this sort of corrects it. And I think this one is pretty well supported. I don't know, what are you guys hearing about that?
Well, I'm for it because I'll be elderly soon.
Won't we all, brother? Won't we all? Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly I'm over 65, and my taxes are just an incredible amount of percentage of my income.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary. So I'm certainly for that one.
Yeah, that one I think is pretty widely supported. And then Proposition 2 is the one that might be a little more, I don't know, interesting to talk about. It's shorter, so I'll read that. Proposition 2 is the constitutional amendment increasing the amount of the The constitutional amendment increasing the amount of the residents' homestead exemption from ad valorem taxes for public school purposes from $25,000 to $40,000. And it basically, well, I'll read the explanation. Currently, homeowners are able to reduce the market value of their primary residence by $25,000 when calculating their annual school property taxes. The proposed amendment would increase the amount of that reduction to $40,000. This could lower the homeowner's annual property tax bills, but it also lowers the amount that's going into public schools from property taxes, because it specifically talks about school taxes. And let's see, the law related to this proposed amendment requires that the state reimburse school districts for revenues lost due to this proposition. And everything that I've read about it, has said that it all depends on what the formulas that the legislature puts in place for that to actually reimburse the school districts for the lost revenue. Yeah. And if they screw that up, then the schools will have even less revenue than they already have, which I'm not sure how we got in this situation, but historically they tend to screw that up in our state. So, yeah. So that's why folks have been against. Some folks have been against it. Some are for it because it's property tax relief, and property taxes are huge. And everybody got that owns a house has got their valuation. Was that 2 weeks ago or something, or last week?
Well, a week ago.
Yeah. So that's really caused some waves with all this too. Well, what are y'all hearing?
Well, I mean, the fact is that the increase of $15,000 in the homestead exemption is really not going to mean a lot for the amount of money that taxpayers are actually paying on the assessed value of their home. right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would, I guess that's the reason why I would vote against that one, is it just, the amount of money that you're taking out of the school district's money is significant, but the amount of money that you're going to get back individually for that change is very small.
Hmm. That's an excellent point. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing that I notice about it is it's another one of these ballot proposals that sort of seems to want to pit the voters against the schools as if
Yeah.
they're enemies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the schools are, they're public schools. They're our schools. Even if you don't have kids in them, I mean, you don't want your neighbors to be uneducated, So.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. What are you hearing about that, Russell?
Well, it just seems that what looms behind all this is the state tax.
Mm-hmm. How do you mean?
Well, like you go to LA or someplace like that where, you have state taxes, because we don't really have that.
Oh, state income tax, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of seems like that's in the background, where if we can't get it one way, we'll get it the other way.
That's right. It has to come from somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll have you two disagree, and then we'll step in and settle it.
Yeah, it's the politics of division here once again. Yeah, I feel that too. So we got to make up our own minds. As union members, though, we are expected to vote. And yeah, I don't think that I haven't seen a labor endorsement one way or the other of either of these propositions. But
I think early voting is now, right?
it is. Yeah, it started last week. Actually, on Friday when we were doing the broadcast, we were like, "Oh, it starts today. We got to talk about this," and we weren't really ready to talk about it. So, I think this week we are
out there as we speak.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think early voting goes through Tuesday, and then the real election is. Is this a Saturday election? Yeah, it's May 7th.
Sure.
That's when election day actually is here, and that is a Saturday, isn't it? Am I tripping?
No, that's fine.
Am I tripping? No, it is a Saturday. Yep. All right.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. But yeah, it just struck me. So that we have this election, and then 2 weeks later or something, there's the primary, primary runoff election, right, for several different things. And so we probably should talk about that next week, I guess, for sure, the primary election. Although we have talked about it already before, but geez, it seems like a lot of elections right in 1 month here. But we
don't really get a break here in Texas.
Yeah,
it seems like there's something going on all the time, which is kind of good, because if you don't watch them, I mean, they'll slide stuff in, and you won't know what happened until it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the case the last several years. A lot of things kind of slide into these in between elections, and yeah. When they talk about making election day a holiday, I always wonder about, well, what about all these other little elections, that aren't in November? Like, are those going to be holidays too?
We get those days.
I mean, come on.
With pay, come on. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, I can use that. Yeah, but although it usually does apply to our work anyway. But
that's what I'm saying. Being that we're musicians, you going to pay us too?
Yeah, right.
To cover. Come on, let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's get some federal funding for that. All right.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm with you. Oh, man. All right, well, we'll have the links to those voters guys we were talking about there, and the endorsements there. I wanted to move on to the rally that happened with...
well, just one more thing.
Oh, please.
The bus trips aren't working.
The what?
The bus trips aren't working.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Our governor wants to take all the refugees and bus them up to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't working.
No, in so many ways.
It's almost comical, but it must be said. It isn't working.
No. I mean, it didn't work.
Tipping people doesn't go over well.
Well, and the searches, right? They did the searches of the cargo trucks that had already been searched by
Come on, really?
by customs and all this, and it just slowed everything
That
down.
work
And cost.
in Canada, it won't work here.
I've seen estimates of like 4.3 billion or something like that it cost, in damages because of that slowdown, and what the heck are we doing here? Yeah, so vote. We have to vote. Everybody has to vote every election, but November is particularly important. So make sure you're registered. You got your card there, Russell? Oh, there it is. He's got it. I love it. That's a recurring bit on this show. That's right. That's the best one.
You got to keep it handy.
Yep.
And now my precinct's right around the corner from me, so they know me now. So they're like, "You don't need to show it." Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. You don't want no shenanigans, no hijinks. Here it is.
Oh my goodness! But you still got to have photo ID though.
So you gotta have photo ID.
Photo ID. Yep. Man. Goodness. All right. Well, so yeah, I wanted to talk about the rally. It was called At What Cost? The At What Cost rally during the Austin School Board meeting, and it was people wearing red shirts. It says in solidarity with Education Austin. This is an article in the Statesman, and it does actually mention once that Education Austin is the labor union for school district employees. So that's the one. Oh yeah, red shirt. There it is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. But otherwise, there's no unions are listed here at all, and the article is subscribers only for the Statesman, so you can't share it with your friends if you're not a subscriber. So the revolution will not be televised. So look out. That's what we've been talking about. But anyway, there's some proposals from the Austin district to raise pay for teachers, which is good because they're losing teachers all over the place. But they're losing all these other support staff too, all the bus drivers and food service employees and everyone else here. They're proposing not giving those folks a raise as if they can afford to keep coming to work. I mean, so. This whole great resignation is still happening.
Alive and well.
But unemployment keeps going down. And that means people are getting jobs when they're leaving their jobs. So, the fight to retain people is real. And these employers need to realize that their workers are valuable because they will certainly realize it when the workers are gone. So.
Could you imagine if they tried this during the 80s? They'd all have been fired and a whole new group been swept in. Mm-hmm. Employers can't do that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So that was interesting. It looks like the board will approve the final budget on June 23rd, but isn't required to approve the schedule changes. So they can just do that, apparently. So if you're a school teacher, join that union, because my goodness, yeah. And if you're another type of employee for the school district, join that union. They can just do more with more people, with more representation. You can always do more, and it really shows. The school district knows which employees are not in the union, and they're like, great, they love it. Not that the school district is necessarily evil, but they're their employer in this situation. So, yeah. Zoinks. Yeah, and it talks a little bit about that recapture program that's been in the news quite a bit, where Austin ISD has to give a lot of money back to the state because the property values are so high, and they try to redistribute that amongst districts that don't have such high property values. So that's a problem for that district too, because they lose a bunch of money that way. Man, a lot of troubles with education and retaining teachers. You guys know anybody affected by that? Any teachers?
I know plenty that have left the field.
Yeah.
I said, I don't need this.
Yeah, I know a few that are considering leaving the field now. There's a lot of them are. Yeah. So. Yeah.
And like you said, they are not unemployed now. They're happily gainfully employed. Other places.
they're finding better jobs. So, yeah, teaching needs to be a much better job than it is right now. We have to respect those teachers and take care of them. I mean, that used to be the thing. Is it was always a low paying job, but the benefits would take care of you after you retired and while you're teaching too. But they're taking that away, and so, you know, what reason do they have to stay? I don't know. Yeah. So, man, you have any thoughts about that, Mark? Before we move on.
Not really.
All right, no worries. I wanted to also bring up there's an article about the LGBTQ bars in Austin, or at least a cluster of them are about to be misplaced or displaced because the buildings are going to be demolished, I guess, for development. And they're talking about Oil Can Harry's, the Coconut Club, the Neon Grotto, and the Iron Bear. You know, I've never worked in those bars, but I know musicians have, and those tend to be, you know, decent gigs sometimes. You know, those gay bars, quote unquote, you know, have tended to be, you know, decent gigs and you know, nice folks to party with, man. I think so. So that's a concern. We have to keep kind of watching that and make sure that I guess those businesses have someplace to go. I would hope, so that you know, that culture doesn't go unrepresented. I mean, I think those businesses have been profitable for a long time. I don't think that's the problem. It's the buildings are getting too valuable. That location, right? So, yeah. You guys know anything about working in those clubs? Ever worked in those clubs?
Yeah, they pay well, and I know people that have done it. I know DJ friends of mine that's their sole gig, and they do well there.
Yeah, that's good, man. So, yeah, hopefully that won't make those businesses disappear, but they are going to disappear temporarily, it looks like. So there are some clubs like that, further to the east in downtown. So, yeah. But, all right, well, that link will be in there as well. Any other news we should bring up? We talked about yeah, well, I wanted to catch you up, Mark. We talked about a great article last week in Labor Notes that told the story of some of the Starbucks employees that are unionizing, and it was in New Jersey, and the management of this one store, they did a mandatory, captive audience meeting, to tell them how bad the union was, and it completely failed. Like they did a terrible job, and the employees were laughing, and
I read about that. Yeah.
All the stuff that they were supposed to, and so they canceled the second meeting they were going to have, and they decided, now we'll do one-on-one meetings, and those went even worse. and the manager like accidentally handed the script for the one-on-one meeting to one of the employees, and they're oh great, I'll go share this with everybody else, and then, and those that really fell down because the employees were really educated already.
Where was that article?
It was on Labor Notes, and I'll put it in the show notes again. Yeah. And it was on the show notes from last week too. So, it was really, really good. I mean, it's funny, but the point that we made last week is that they're falling down on the job now as far as the management's concerned, but they're going to get better at it, and we're going to start seeing more and more anti-union propaganda all over the place, especially once Amazon starts really spending money on publicity on this stuff. Well, at Starbucks too. I mean, they just got their old CEO back. That's a union buster, and they're hiring union busting lawyers and all kinds of stuff. Yep. They're going to start flooding the media with anti-union propaganda. We got to be ready for that, and that's what we're doing right now. We're countermanding that. We're attempting to, at least with this little show here. So, but yeah, when we talk to our coworkers, and then everybody in our families and everybody else, we got to be ready, for all kinds of misinformation about how bad the unions are and the union bosses and the whatever and all this stuff. You ever notice that they call them captains of industry, but then they call them union bosses or union thugs?
Well, in the United States, they're captains of industry. In Russia, they're oligarchs.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, they're oligarchs here too, but yeah, by any definition.
No, but I mean that's what the press calls it.
That's what the press calls. That's exactly right. Yep. Yep.
But for so long here in America, they did such a good job of squashing unions. They didn't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, I mean, the wave of apathy is over. People are like, no, there's a better way. Let's go back to the way the unions were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're like, well, push the panic button. Let's go back to the terms that we use, because people are actually saying union now.
Yeah.
Not association. They're actually using the term union.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't have any choice. I mean, what they're facing is so grim and so restrictive, and in some cases so dangerous in the workplace. I mean, that they don't have a lot of choices for recourse or other places to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So. Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, sometimes the issue is not even money; it's safety.
Yeah, well, I mean, some Amazon employees are making $15, $18 an hour. That's not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that some of them are objecting to. It's a lot the working conditions that they're having to work in, and just the way the whole company treats employees in terms of hiring and firing, and that there's a lot of other issues other than just pay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's no way to redress those issues except with a union. There's no way, if you don't have a representative democracy organization of the workers, the management can't talk to every worker individually.
Right.
Not really. And
that's your ally.
Yeah.
The union is your ally. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the union is the workers. It's us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I really like the phrase that you used, Russell, the wave of apathy is over. That's good, man. we should write that down. The wave of apathy is over. Yeah. I like that. That's very epic sounding.
Yeah.
And appropriate, too.
I have my moments.
Yeah, man. Man, we'll have to make that a tune on your next record or something.
There you go. Yeah.
Man. All right. Well, anything else we should talk about before we sign off for this week?
Can't think of anything else.
Yeah, all right.
I think that's it. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Well, you, the viewer, if you're watching this, if you're in the music industry, don't give up. We're coming back. Everything's coming back. I mean, we're seeing it. Calendars are filling up. We're hoping next year may be more of a normal year again, and that's great. People are ready to come out. The audiences are coming back. They're excited. Stay healthy. Play your ass off, and play your butt. And we will see you next week on the Get Back. And,
like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Thank you. We'll see you next week on the Get Back. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.